If you enjoy what you hear here today, please consider supporting me on my Patreon page. Every dollar helps, and you get to see content that you won't see here. Chapter 21. Returning Home. The Regalia shimmered within the lavender containment shield Queen Twilight Sparkle had placed over it. The item floated in the middle of the troop cabin, bobbing gently in the air as their transport made the final approach to the city of Canterlot. Within the cabin alongside the Queen were Broadsword, Vladimir, Spike, and Shining Armor. The other 5 changelings and ponies were all loaded up in a second helicopter flying alongside theirs. The 2 carrying the surviving members of the team were flanked by 5 more of the vehicles, Luna having rallied together as many as she could on such short notice to escort them back. The 5 escorts had their weapons active at all times, taking no chances with the life of the exhausted changeling queen. Still, exhausted or not, Twilight had no intention of resting. Recent events had only gone on to highlight the urgency of the matter. The death of Queen Draco only being the most recent example of the threat facing all of changeling kind. The Regalia itself seemed to be inert, damaged by Draco's and Twilight's magic, but still physically intact. Twilight didn't trust it, not one bit. Thus, the shield. The shield was designed to stop any attempt to reach out to the outside world in any form, whether that be magic or hive connections. In truth, it wouldn't particularly help if the Regalia was still linked with any of the missing queens, but it should have at least stopped it from potentially stealing the minds of any more, as it had done with Draco. Twilight wasn't letting the chest piece out of her sight, not for a moment, fearing what might happen should it get loose and not be as inert as it seemed. She would keep it by her side, safely sealed within the magical bubble, until she reached the council and informed them of the situation. Then they would need to decide how to proceed, how to track down and eliminate the one behind all of it. They would also need to decide what to do with the Regalia, and in that regard, Twilight was all for destroying it, if at all possible. Her younger self might have been overly eager to run tests, but since taking the throne, the Queen had come to realize that some lines of research should simply never be undertaken. Too many people in the past looked into things best left alone, and seldom did it ever end well. The road to Tartarus is paved with good intentions, after all. Still, despite her own plans, the Queen couldn't help but feel uneasy. The death of her friend didn't help in the least, but it was more the uncertainty that concerned her the most. She still had no idea as to who the Regalia's true owner was, the mysterious female individual so bent on dominating the changelings. The drone that had briefly been freed before dying had called her a demon. So, perhaps another escaped prisoner from Tartarus? If that was the case, then Cerberus seriously needed a cut in pay. But then there was also Queen Draco's own words before her self-inflicted death. An ancient one, come back to claim what she believes is hers, were Draco's words to describe that individual. Ancient could easily describe one of the denizens of Tartarus, but she believed that the changeling race belonged to her? That would suggest a long-standing history with her kind, and something that could easily fit the individual she spelled out in her earlier theory to Captain Vespertilio. The Changeling Empress.
So, an escaped prisoner akin to Tyrek, or the ghosts of the past coming back to haunt us? I'm curious to know what the answer will be.
Twilight thought to herself. Twily? The Queen looked around towards her brother. Shining Armor was standing to the left, giving his younger, yet substantially taller sister a look of concern. You're looking a little spaced out over there. You okay?
Sorry, Shining, I'm just thinking.
I imagine there's a lot to think about, Broadsword stated in understanding. It's not easy, losing a friend.
I'd prefer not to talk about that. Not now.
Twilight said, taking a calming breath.
I need to stay focused. There's still a lot at stake here.
Broadsword nodded gently. I understand. Apologies, Your Highness.
It's fine.
Just then, the pilot called back into the cabin. We're about to land in a few minutes. Princess Luna will meet us there. What about Princess Celestia? Shining Armor inquired. The pilot conferred with his radio for a moment, turning back to answer when he had answers to give. The princess will take us up to her elder sister once we arrive. She's waiting for you within the castle herself.
I'm afraid I'll have to pass on that. Prepare for departure on arrival.
Twilight communicated to her drones on the other craft.
Yes, my queen.
The chorus of 3 voices responded. Pass? Twilight, what are you up to? Shining questioned. I think we're moving onwards, Spike muttered. Twilight didn't yet answer her brother, instead turning her hive mind to one individual, a very good friend whom she had known for 10 years.
Cardus? Are you there?
Ready and waiting, Twilight, Cardus responded.
Your personal guards have been keeping me and some of the others up to date. About Draco and Scorpion.
Not now.
Twilight tried not to snap, but she couldn't keep the bite quite out of her voice.
Sorry. Recent times have been most trying.
Don't worry about it, I know.
He stated in return.
Are you returning home? You could use the rest.
Hold the concern. I'm not finished yet.
You shouldn't push yourself, Twilight.
One final hurdle. Then I will consider it.
Even though she couldn't hear it, much to Twilight's chagrin, she could just sense Cardus's sigh. The Queen rolled her eyes and then waited for the former captain of the Royal Guard to speak again.
Fine. Just be careful,
he cautioned.
So, what do you need?
Now that Scorpion is no longer with us, I need you, Cardus.
Twilight stated.
I know you can't fight, and I'm not asking you to leave the Hive, but I do need you to put those old skills of yours to use and set up an escort for me. Have them meet me partway to the Council Hive before we leave Equestria's borders.
I can do that,
he confirmed.
Good. Once we have discussed the situation, assuming nothing else immediate comes up, I'll return home to rest up. Then we should prepare for the worst.
I'll see to my preparations.
The Equestrian Hive. Cardus had just finished up his conversation with Queen Twilight. The changeling allowed himself a sigh as he looked over the statues of Queen Chrysalis and Avia at the heart of the atrium. 8 years of peace had been shattered, he was fully aware. Didn't mean he liked it. In fact, it worried him greatly. He was a father, after all. Worrying was simply a fact of life for him.
Honey?
Panacea approached her husband.
Where did you go? You were there one minute and gone the next. Yeah, Dad.
Uvenus stated, joining them.
What gives?
Huh? Oh, sorry. The Queen pinged me.
Queen Twilight?
Panacea inquired.
What did she say?
That I have work to do.
Work? Honey, no offense, but you know full well you simply can't handle being in the guard in your condition.
Thanks for reminding me that I'm a cripple, Cardus deadpanned. And no, that's not what I meant. Cardus explained to his wife and daughter everything that had happened recently. All the way from the Queen leaving the Crystal Empire to the death of Queen Draco. The story, it was safe to say, left them rather shocked. Panacea gawped.
Queen Draco is dead?
Yeah. The guards with Twilight informed me and a few others just after it happened, he explained. We've tried to put a lid on it until the Queen says otherwise. None of us have leaked it through neither hive mind nor word of mouth. Until now, anyway.
I knew things were bad. But this?
Juvenis muttered, the teenage changeling shivering momentarily in her chitin.
What about Pew? She and Saronis are outside the hive still.
Saronis and Pulula will be fine, honey, Cardus assured his child. They're safely tucked away in the middle of Manhattan, and are accompanying the element of generosity. There's very little chance of something happening while they are there. Juvenis sighed.
I hope so. I'm gonna go talk to her a bit to make doubly sure.
Juvenis's parents watched as she quickly sauntered off, not wasting time in contacting her best friend over the hive. Despite it all, Cardus couldn't help but chuckle. How cute it is that they set up a direct hive connection between one another.
Cardus, we've talked about your teasing.
Panacea scolded. What? It's not like she's here right now to hear it. His wife gave him a deadpan look. All right, stopping now. But still, she's not wrong to be concerned. Things are pretty bleak right now.
They never stay that way,
Panacea said confidently.
The Queen will sort all of this out. She always does.
The Queen and those friends of hers should have asked if they're getting involved by this point. Panacea shrugged.
It wouldn't surprise me. Those gems, the elements of harmony, are quite effective.
Or as Rainbow Dash once called them, the tactical rainbow of instant win.
What?
Cardus smirked. You should really understand by now that Twilight's friends are a most curious array of characters.
Does that include you?
Oh yes, he confirmed jokingly while stealing a quick kiss on his wife's cheek, causing her to blush through her chitin. Why else would you marry me?
I do wonder sometimes,
she joked back.
But I'm keeping you from fulfilling the Queen's commands. Go. I'll still be here when you get back.
Cardus nodded. She was right, of course. And it would be good to play captain of the guard again, even in an unofficial capacity. You're going back to the Council Hive? Shining all but shouted, though it still wasn't loud enough to completely overtake the noise of the helicopter. Are you nuts? Twilight raised an eyebrow.
Excuse me?
The Queen had just finished talking to Cardus over the hive mind, and had then proceeded to explain her intent to Shining Armor. His reaction left something to be desired. Twilight, we've just been through some seriously messed up things. You need to rest.
I'll rest when I'm ready to.
Shining's mouth gaped open and closed for a few moments, trying to form a response. In the end, he opted for a loud groan. Ugh! Why do you have to be so stubborn? Twilight smirked.
I wonder where I got that from.
Your mother? Twilight went to retort, but had to concede that one.
Okay, true. But also you. You did jump aboard a helicopter under the cover of an invisibility spell after all, especially considering you were told not to.
That is true, Shining admitted. Oh, Cadence is so gonna kill me.
Exactly. I think I win this one.
Twilight said smugly.
The end. You lose.
Shining rolled his eyes. Whatever you say, Twilight. I still think it's a bad idea. Don't worry, I'll keep an eye on her as always, Spike stated. You can trust me. Twilight nodded before throwing Shining Armor an amused glance.
Unfortunately, you are not coming with us this time.
What? Why?
1, because the last time you were a stowaway. If I let you come voluntarily this time around, then I too will face my sister-in-law's wrath, and I'd rather not do that. 2, I'll be looking out for any tricks this time, so don't think you can pull another stunt like you did the other day.
Shining grumbled, unhappy with the ultimatum. He was ultimately unable to do much about it this time, however. Even he knew that he was in enough trouble as it was. He couldn't give any other retort anyway, because they were all interrupted by a large bump that signaled that their transport had made a successful landing at Canterlot Castle. "We've arrived," the pilot informed. "Princess Luna and her guards are waiting for you all outside." "About time," Vladimir muttered, being the first to reach out, open the door, and jump out into the fresh air. He was also immediately swarmed by a team of doctors. Hey, what gives? As Twilight and the others exited shortly after the Thestral, she saw the other 5 had also departed their own right and were being checked out by medical personnel. "The wing is cauterized and bandaged, but we should definitely give it a thorough checkup," one of the doctors stated, trying to lead Vladimir to a nearby ambulance carriage. "Now hold on a minute," Vladimir protested. "Do not struggle, Captain," the voice of Princess Luna commanded as the alicorn approached the group. "Your report can wait until they have seen to you." Vladimir glanced towards his friends and saw that none of them were going to take his side on that particular occasion. So with a resigned sigh, he allowed himself to be whisked off to a nearby hospital for a proper checkup, the 2 solar guards joining him as Twilight's changelings retook their positions at their queen's side. Shining Armor, Broadsword, and Spike also remained behind, all being vastly uninjured.
Twilight, it is good to see you well. Or as well as you can be, given the circumstances,
Luna stated, greeting her old friend. She then turned to Broadsword and Shining Armor, giving the latter a disapproving glare.
I would ask you two to return to the barracks until Vladimir is cleared from the hospital. I want a report from all 3 of you to both myself and my sister later.
Broadsword saluted. "Of course, Your Highness." Luna nodded.
Good. Now, Twilight, Tia's waiting for us in her study.
Twilight shook her head.
Sorry, Luna. There's no time to catch up. We must leave now.
Luna tilted her head in confusion.
Leave?
"Yeah," Spike spoke up. "We've got urgent business with the other changeling queens."
No.
Spike looked up at Twilight, unsure as what to say to that. "No. Twilight, what do you mean?"
Stay here for now. Talk with Celestia alongside Broadsword, Vladimir, and Shiny. Then I want you to go to Ponyville. It's high time my friends knew what was going on. If I need their help, and I suspect I will, I'll send a scroll through your Dragonfire.
Spike nodded. "Got it. You can count on me."
Twilight, what exactly is going on?
Luna inquired. Twilight sighed.
It's a long story, Luna. And time is short. So until you speak to Spike and the others, for now, a quick explanation will have to suffice.